Hey, hey, shalom, shalom, Spawn and Shua. Welcome again to the rock. Out running some errands. Uh, but I wanted to do this third video on foods to grow. You know, as times get bad, uh, five good preparedness foods. Before we get there, I want to say, for those that have bought the Hebrew walking onions, your orders are sent out. I sent a ton of them out yesterday, and I will be sending more out today. Also, if you are looking for some, I still have some left. So you email me at hood to homestead, the number two, then homestead at yahoo.com. And then now we can start the process there. Also, Jerusalem artichokes will be available soon as well. All right. Third food, and it was also known as the poor man's food. And there's two vegetables that I'm gonna mention here, and they are radishes and turnips. Now, the first food that we talked about was Jerusalem artichokes, and those specifically because of their ability to spread and multiply year after year. But you can also throw potatoes in there. Number two is amaranth, and you can grind the amaranth seeds down for porridge or for breads and things like that. And then the leaves, you can eat them, highly nutritious. So those two things you're talking about, calorie dense foods with those two. With radish and turnips, we're not talking about calorie dense foods. Radishes can have, medium sized radish can have anywhere between 1 to 15 calories per radish, and turnip, medium size, 25 to 40 calories per medium sized turnip. The reason I'm mentioning these two specifically is they have something that I greatly like. Because we're talking about, bad times or preparedness food. We're talking about something that can grow in diverse climates. That it can survive a period of no rain. It can survive through heat. Also, the reason why I picked radishes also is because and turnips is because your soil doesn't have to be the best soil. I've grown turnips and radishes by simply broadcasting them across a section of space. I know people who grew radishes um, on next to the road on their property. It doesn't need the greatest soil for them to grow in, and they're extremely nutrient dense. You can eat the leaves on both plants, and you obviously the tube or the root, not the tube, the root. You can eat that as well. And they're actually very tasty. I really enjoy. Now, some of my favorite radishes are, I love the Chinese daikon radish, and I love the icicle radish. But you also have your cherry bell radishes and your French breakfast radishes, and I think they have a watermelon radish. It doesn't taste like watermelon; it just looks like watermelon. But I love the white icicle radishes. And I love the daikon radishes. Daikon radishes are kind of sweet, so they have a higher calorie count. But also, you have the for turnips. I love the purple top turnips because they produce an abundant amount of greens, and they produce what I like a sweet turnip in the ground. So they're not, water. They don't require a ton of water. I grew radishes and turnips this year and didn't water them at all. They continued to produce. Now they produced very slowly. Then once the rains came, they shot up. But also you can eat the seed pods. When radishes go to seed, if you take those pods when they're nice and green, throw them in a stir fry, they're excellent. So again, we're not talking about calorie dense foods because we're assuming that you already have your potatoes in the ground, your Jerusalem artichokes in the ground, and that's where a lot of your calories are going to come from. But it's nice to have something you can throw on top of food, and that will make it through the high temperatures. The next greatest point about radishes and turnips are radishes only take 20 days to grow. 20 days to grow. During the Great Depression, my sister T's grandmother gave us stories about how they used to grow radish. Well, grow radishes and turnips next to like small waterways, next to streams. They would just plant radishes next to the stream, plant turnips next to the stream, and grow an abundance of food. So every 20 days you're throwing radish seeds in the ground, you're getting a harvest of radishes. Turnips, you're talking anywhere between 30 to 50 days for turnips. So you're talking about once a month you're going to be pulling food out of the ground for radishes, and about once a month for turnips as well. So you're going to constantly be having food growing that is drought tolerant, heat tolerant, and you can grow radishes and turnips into the winter, which means that if you start them in the fall or late fall, and as long as they sprout and have taken root before a extreme freeze, you can throw leaves on top of that garden. We've done it, and we've had radishes go into, and this is out here in the Ozarks, into late December, early January. We're pulling radishes out, right along with the carrots. Right along with the carrots we still had growing in the soil. So along with the nutrient dense, you have the tolerance to drought, you have the tolerance to heat, you have the quick time for harvesting, 20 days for the radishes and 30 to 50 for the turnips. You're talking about a food that you can throw on top of a lot of different things and gives you vitamins and minerals. Again, this is considering the point that you already have your calorie dense, your carbohydrate dense foods in the soil. People have asked me, why don't you include things like corn and green beans? Now, for myself, this is my own list. For myself, when I think of preparedness foods that I would grow when times got bad, or if times got bad, I grow them now and I eat a lot of it. So I know I like those foods. I already know I like radishes. I like turnips. I like Jerusalem artichokes. The family likes them. We like amaranth. But when you're talking about the crap hits the fan or economic crisis or whatever, one of the things I consider is, for a lot of people who live in areas that depend on, let's say, the city water, whatever happens if your water gets turned off? Do you have something growing that is not water intensive? Corn is water and nitrogen intensive. It takes a lot of water and a lot of nitrogen to grow corn. And for me, the reward is not worth the hassle. Now, do I grow corn now? Yeah, I grow a little bit of corn every now and then. Now, because I'm not worried about it, But also, let's say green beans. Green beans can require water. They can require a lot of water. So, and also they need be pollinated. So that's why I avoid certain things on this list. Like I avoid squash. There's a lot of squash bugs, boar viners will dig into those, and you can grow a lot of squash, but they'll be destroyed. So that's why there's a lot of things I'm not including on my list of things that I would grow. Now, you may be able to grow it, you may be able to find a way to do it, and that's awesome. But for me in this list, this is why I'm including or not including certain things. I'm very strategic and very, you can store turnips, you can store radishes for a period of time. So these are things that I'm considering in a root cellar. They're easy to blanch and freeze. There's so much you can do with them. We made turnip fries. They were so good. So these are the things that I am considering. These are things that I look at. I look at what happens if we have a summer like we did this year where there isn't a whole lot of rain. Well, for most crops that aren't drought tolerant, they're going to die or they're going to bolt. Your lettuces will bolt, a lot of your mustards will bolt, things like that will bolt if you had this sort of year. Now, I did have some mustards make it through it, but I've been working on a drought-tolerant mustard that's taken me some time to get to. We're talking about food and feeding a family, and these are things that you have to consider. I love growing tomatoes. Is that one of the things on my list? No, because if you don't get rain and you don't have access to water because they turn off your water lines or whatever it is, and you're living in your city, and you're looking in your backyard or whatever it is, I want to have a guaranteed harvest of food. That's what I'm looking at. And these things don't take up a lot of space in a garden. So that's why I'm including Jerusalem artichokes, potatoes. They're going to take up a lot of space. Amaranth is not going to take up a whole lot of space because it grows vertical. And and it's providing a ton of seeds and greens. And then radishes, you could literally plant radishes around your the borders of your property, the borders of your yard. You can plant them underneath the amaranth plants, and you're going to have radish and turnips and fresh greens. So this is why I'm including this in the list as my number 3 food that I would grow for preparedness. If you look at a lot of studies and talk to a lot of old timers that went through the Great Depression, they'll tell you about radishes and turnips. They'll tell you about how they grew a ton of those. Now, we're not talking about rutabagas. We're talking about turnips. So this is why I'm including this in this list, and this is why there's a lot of other foods that I'm not including in the list. I'm not really including things that require a lot of extra care as far as taking care of them. So hopefully this video has been a blessing to y'all. I will be having my 4th and my 5th food very soon. If you're looking for the other videos, type in this title and the other 2 should pop up for Jerusalem artichokes and for the amaranth. All right, bless y'all. Hope you all having a blessed 4th day. Shalom.